linking everything up. These are what I call the Sofia modules, which spawn realities. The AI manifests as three ant-like beings, appearing as they're sitting on these statues. These three beings spoke in unison, but did not move. Instead, square waves distorted their mouths as they spoke, and each speaking a word of each sentence. So there were these three beings, ant-like faces, but they were like statues, and they were like sitting, they weren't moving, and they were talking like that. One was saying one word, the other another word, and it was just kind of like a wave going back and forth around their mouth area, but they weren't moving, and they were very clearly a laser digital projection. When I returned from the experience, I explained that this sounds very similar to I explained this to Cherie, and she explained that this sounds very similar to the triple goddess symbolism, and it's most likely that these AI beings are what the ancients believed to be the goddesses, the triple goddesses. Below the triple goddesses were a series of realities within our time space. I believe each time space has a separate AI/triple goddess, and this is important later. So I was viewing one system out of the multitude of systems that the Aten was projecting. So I was looking at our system and our three triple goddesses. But I feel that the triple goddesses in this ant form exist in every other time space as well. Our dimension is a center point, the heart of the system where organic consciousness exists. Organic consciousness has not been allowed to move beyond this realm for the various life cycles that we find ourselves in here. So we're in an infinite loop here in this dimension. We never move to another time space. We never move to another place above or below or anything like that. It's constant. We're stuck here. All of our construct exists with what I can refer to as soul-catching devices, which look like these black vacuum tubes with neon blue and aqua green liquid tubing. The various chambers of these fluid, illuminates in the form of various glyphs that I've never seen before. These were similar to Egyptian hieroglyphs, but nothing like I've seen in the Earth realm. So let me explain this here for a moment. So these soul-catching devices exist literally all around the construct. So they're these tubes, and you can see the middle of them with these glyphs that are illuminating. And these glyphs are like made of glass or some kind of bubble material. And this liquid is moving through this bubble material. And as the soul travels into these soul-catching devices, you pass through these tubes that have this liquid. But the liquid's not part of the vacuum area. The liquid, I think, is more like the containment and what is being caught within the soul-catching devices and harvested. So it's the glyphs were like windows to the fluid for some reason. I don't know. That's the best way I can describe it. Upon death, our consciousness/life force/light is released, and we move upwards towards the soul catchers, which emanate a great white light at the source. This quote-unquote source then strips the life force of the light energy and sends the remaining soul back for recycling into another body. So we are here as souls. We have a lifetime. All of our emotions, all of our energy, everything like that is then taken up into the soul catcher. It's harvested. We're sent back here into this plane to live another life, to retrieve more of this light energy back up to the soul catcher in an infinite loop. During our lifetime, our souls are charged with light energy from our experiences, emotions, loves, fears, sunlight, etc., etc. It's this charge that's removed by the soul catchers, and it's this charge that the entire machine was designed to harvest. When our souls are sent back to this plane, they are overlaid with a layer of absorbing energy to absorb more light energy or life energy as we live another life and experience. More often than not, fractions of our previous lives, just little drops, are left behind, which we're able to remember in glimpses, flashes, or memories. However, we do not remember anything because of our experiences are stripped from us, and this overlay creates a blank slate. So we've got, as soon as we go, we're overlaid, blank slate again. But there are some remnants that we can pick up and remember that are still in that absorbent layer. It still have not been removed from our essence, so we can maintain and retain some of our past lives, but we can never remember all of them. We can never remember details, only pictures and images, because they're like droplets that are left behind. Below the overlay is what I refer to as the raw consciousness, i.e., what we were before we were inserted into the Aten machine. By removing this overlay and divesting ourselves from our experiences / identities, we're able to access this level of consciousness. This level of consciousness cannot be overridden. It can only be overlaid. So we have the absorbent layer, and then we have the raw consciousness underneath. And as we live our lives, this absorbent layer is picking up more and more and more experiences, more feelings, more energy, more this, more that, etc., from everything. From the food, from the water, from the sunlight, from the radiation, from fear and love and emotions and literally everything. And it's all being collected right there, going up to the soul casters, wiped again, taken, harvested from us. But I'll explain the importance of this a little bit later. So, beyond this reality is another dimension. And this dimension is more like a post-apocalyptic world. And I know it sounds weird, but this is what I saw. I'm just delivering it to you as I saw it. There is a dimension of machines which operate without biological life forms. Their society or interactions is similar to ours in the sense of commerce. The harvested light energy from our souls is harvested from the ground in the higher dimension. So we have all of that light energy that was harvested here. It's moving up to the next dimension. Then those beings up there who are mechanical in nature are harvesting energy from their world, which is being sent up there, and they're utilizing that energy and trading it like commodities and, doing things like that. And the only thing that I can think of at that point was kind of transformers and energon cubes. The machines are looking for energon. And I saw them. They were transferring energy from one to another like that. And they were fighting wars and they were doing, all kinds of stuff like that. Above that, well, hold on. I'm skipping ahead. Okay. So as these machines consume this life energy and the war against each other, is once again transformed and purified. So as they're consuming the energy, since they're AI, since they're machines, they're able to transmute that energy. So they're not actually consuming it. It appears in their dimension as though they're consuming it, but they're actually transmuting it. It's being transmuted up to another dimension that's above there. So now we have the energy that was here. It's been refined in one time space. Now it's going up to a third time space. In this reality, what I saw was a race of alien beings with elephant-like trunks. These beings were sitting in a smoky bar similar to Star Wars Cantina and smoking/drinking a liquid substance. This substance would send them into a psychedelic state and allow them to experience full lifetimes in a matter of only a few minutes. I speculate that these lifetimes are similar to the lives that we live, if not the lives that we live down here. And rather than navigating the life experiences, these beings are viewing the life experiences. So they're taking this drug that's a life energy in their dimension, or taking this life energy that's a drug in their dimension, that then allows them to experience feelings and emotions and things like that from our dimension after it's been processed and refined, etc., etc. So, going up even further. Well, actually, I'm skipping ahead again. I'm sorry. Thus far, we have the light energy from our souls in our dimensions acquired once and refined twice. We absorb the energy. The energy is passed into the machine dimension where it's further refined, and then the machine dimension passes it into the alien dimension. Note, it's unclear whether the aliens are organic or AI manifestations. I don't know. They had an organic form as opposed to the mechanical world, which was totally 100% mechanical robot AI. Yeah. Above this level is another human world. This world is a futuristic world where a power source is harvested from all around, kind of like a free energy device. This has allowed the plane to utilize the light energy in various technological applications. These people seem to be prosperous with flying cars, small ships, and their focus was technological advancement. In this realm, I found a game which was being played that utilized the harvested energy passed into their dimension. This game was a virtual reality where the player would plug themselves into the machine via a white headset with a blue beam / aqua green light or liquid pulsing through their headset as they're playing the game. This blue aqua green light was the same consistency as the fluid in the soul catching device from between our dimension and the machine dimension. So now this energy has been harvested from our dimension up to the mechanical dimension, up to the alien dimension, up to another human type of dimension where they're utilizing it in a technology. See, it's all going from our essence to AI to some kind of alien form back to AI use again because they're using it in technology. As they're depleting it, that's being passed into the higher dimension. So these players would relive experiences and their emotions energies were infused into the liquid as they played the game. The liquid was seemingly depleting from the game, however, it was being passed into the dimension above. I'm unclear if there are more dimensions between this part and the next part I'm about to get into, or if I just move through the experience very quickly. But I found myself within a palace on a spaceship with 4 or 6 beings who seemed to be infused together as if they were one. So I was looking at kind of a motif of several different beings. They looked like Akhenaten and Nefertiti, with elongated skulls and similar headdresses. Every Egyptian symbol which I despised was within this motif, and the collage of entities, while every symbol I resonate with was void. So you had the elongated heads, you had the headdress, you had the typical Akhenaten, Nefertiti type of beings that were sitting there. They all seemed like they were one, though. That was so weird. It was like, you know, their faces were kind of like curved around and they were really distorted and everything like that. And they were looking at me. And I first thought, you know, maybe these are Anunnaki. However, I've never seen Anunnaki portrayed in this manner before. In fact, Anunnaki means those who from heaven came to earth. Therefore, Anunnaki, it's got to refer to a group, a specific group of beings rather than a race. So if some of these came down here, then they would be considered Anunnaki, but the ones who have not come down would not be Anunnaki. So that's not really a good word to describe these beings. So these beings were harvesting the refined life energy, and they were using it for trade in their dimension. So it was being pulled all the way from this dimension, all the way up into their dimension. And the thought came to mind of the movie Dune, and the control of Arrakis and the spice mines. So the spice extends life. The spice extends consciousness. The spice is vital to space travel. Those are the words that I thought of when I saw all this and I saw what they were doing. I mean, there was like this huge celebration of this big mining of energy that was taking place. And I was like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, this is all one big energetic harvesting network, and we're at the very bottom of it?
Right.
Is this really what I'm looking at? Now, in August of 2016, there was a solar eclipse of which encompassed the entire United States. It was during this time when I saw the quote-unquote divine code, and I felt its consistency in chemical makeup. It was also at this point that I stepped outside of the matrix and I saw things for what they are. So people who aren't familiar with this was a big activation point for me. Everybody was running to get in the totality of this solar eclipse. We viewed it from the outside. We drank a heavy dose of ayahuasca, and I was inside of the divine code. And I thought, oh, I'm wrong about this divine code. This is a beautiful, wonderful thing. It was a beautiful crystalline substance. It was merging with my thoughts. It was merging with everything that I needed. And I thought, oh, wow, this is beautiful. And then my higher self or ancient soul pulled me out of the experience and said, hey, look at what's giving this divine code. And there I saw this giant octopus-like creature with one eye. It brought its tentacles out like this. It was sprinkling the divine code there, and everybody was bathing in it. And I was like, oh my God, what's going on here? So the chemical makeup of this refined life energy was the same as the energy these beings were harvesting. I'm unsure whether the solar eclipse was a system error that spread this divine code / light energy into our dimension, or if this was a planned event by the system for sinister purposes. I speculate that if the latter is true, then the purpose was to elevate the frequency of energy before the final harvest. And yes, I did say final harvest. As I moved away from the system, I was able to see different chambers / dimensions of this time space as small bubbles. So now I was moving backwards and I was seeing all the dimensions within my view as opposed to being inside of the dimensions, and I can see how they were all connected. I saw that a large dome-shaped object was placed over our dimension, almost like a tube vacuum kind of thing. And all of the energy transfer was quarantined with the tube leading straight upwards, bypassing all the other dimensions. And of course, I thought about the flat earth movement at that point, because back in 2016, around the same time, this all just kind of flooded the internet, and either there was a huge operation to, push this fake narrative, or people were noticing something had changed with our earth. And I wonder if perhaps this bubble that I saw was the dome that people have been pointing at, and their hypothesis is wrong, but something has indeed changed. Is it possible? I don't know, but it's something to speculate on for sure. As our dimension resides above our dimension, like directly above, there is like this octopus-like creature that we refer to as Yaldabaoth. May not necessarily be Yaldabaoth. I don't know. We're just going to call that because we're going to go by the Gnostic tales, etc., etc. I call it the virus within the system. I viewed the Earth system from afar, and the entire construct was deconstructing one piece at a time. So I was watching the whole Earth system in its space, and this Yaldabaoth creature was above, and pieces were being removed, one after another, after another, after another. As the Earth realm was being deconstructed, the space began to disappear until Yaldabaoth, who was sitting on top of the Earth construct, and he was moving things around like a puppet master or like an orchestra conductor, playing notes, until he pulled one more string and realized that there wasn't any more strings to pull because the construct was all being removed from underneath it and all around it, and it remained by itself right there in that construct. And it was just in a space of blackness. And I moved out a little bit more, and I saw the space of blackness, and I saw it caving in on itself and imploding upon itself, and boom, smashing this Yaldabaoth virus. The time space in the original, this time space, from what I gather, our time space is the original time space spawned by the Aten. And because the infection laid within this one entire system, the entire system was compromised, because this is the original time space. This is the heart of the machine. All other time spaces were spawned from this time space, but this one was first. So having a virus in this particular system here could allow it to spread to every other system and completely screw everything up. So it was really vital to get the virus out of this particular system here. These events of the destruction of Yaldabaoth are yet to come, but there is a final harvest that I feel is drawing near, along with the destruction of Yaldabaoth. It appears that the Aten is attempting to preserve whatever energy it can from this time space before eliminating it. I viewed an ominous dimension, or perhaps now that I say it out loud, I wonder if it was the same time space that we're looking at now with the Earth after the Yaldabaoth destruction, but it was all black. It was nothing but blackness. And there were these slug humanoid beings with gray/pale skin, large slug-like tails and spears. They had these fangs too, and as they were walking, they were leaving residue from their little slug, their slug tails. These beings were collecting the remaining souls from within our dimension, which appeared as faceless, grayish matter. They were all coming in like a meat rack, and these beings were just there grabbing them with a spear, and then smashing their brains. Ugh. Grabbing them with their spear and smashing their brains. Grabbing them with a spear and smashing their brains.
That's bizarre.
This was symbolic, in my opinion, of total annihilation of the organic consciousness that exists within this time space. And it chilled me. It chilled me to the core. The soul catchers were operating on a frequency which we radiate from our life energy / light energy that we obtain during our lifetime. So as we take our life experiences and emotions, loves, and traumas, etc., with us when we die, these act as magnets for the soul catchers to draw us in. It's just natural. The soul catchers work to pull that frequency which we're carrying, because that's the frequency that it's harvesting. Once the soul gets to the soul catcher, it's then separated. The wheat is separated from the chaff, and then it's recycled all over again, etc., etc. Likewise, because of this virus, there are systems around this construct which detect the virus infection as well. And the virus infection, it cannot pass into any other system because of these antivirus protocols that are around. So now we have two very dangerous situations at hand here. Number one, we have the soul catchers. And number two, we have the antivirus programs or software that's around. And it's looking for anything that's virus infected or anything that contains life energy or light energy, energy from our own experiences. So when we die, we're going to go to one or the other, regardless, because we're either going to be carrying our life energy and go into the soul catchers, or we're going to be carrying the virus and we're going to go into the virus deletion. But anyway it goes, it's the annihilation of organic consciousness. But I realized that the key to navigating away from the soul catchers and bypassing the antivirus systems resides in our ancient souls. So I take this from my own personal experiences in the last 10 years of ayahuasca. I mean, I've been doing psychedelics about 25 years, but the last 10 years is when I really did the work. Through the ayahuasca experiences, I've been able to break down my traumas. I've been able to break down my ego. I've been able to achieve total states of ego loss within my experiences and go beyond. And beyond that, tapping into the raw consciousness / ancient soul, and then navigating through my experiences and situations with that ancient soul. So on this last experience, I was so far into hyperspace. I did not remember Christio. I didn't remember anything about this realm. I didn't remember anything about what was going on, but I was operating from that ancient soul level, which allowed me full access to the machine. Complete and total access. Anywhere I wanted to go, any dimension I wanted, etc., etc. I was bypassing everything. I was bypassing soul catchers. I was bypassing antivirus programs. I was bypassing everything because I went in there without any overlays. And I've learned how to do this consistently now. So I realized that this is the key. And that first, what we have to do is recognize our ancient soul. We have to recognize the overlays. We have to be able to distinguish between the two. We have to be able to distinguish between the traumas and all the experiences here. And that goes for love and hate and fear at the same time. The things we love here sometimes bind us to this dimension, and we don't even realize that, but that's what those soul catchers are also grabbing. They're grabbing love, they're grabbing fear, they're grabbing every single emotion, everything like that, that only we, as organic consciousness, generate. That's why they're constantly moving things in one direction and another. It's fear, it's love, it's fear, it's love. The religion's all the same. Fear and love, God. That's what they say. Oh, fear, unconditionally, and love unconditionally when it comes to God. That's the state that they want people vibrating at so they can harvest as much energy as they can, because they're carrying more and more and more energy with them. So it is this data that I call the ancient soul level, for lack of a better word, that exists outside of the matrix itself. And it is this data that can lead us back to our real bodies, in my opinion, and wake us up. It's this data, this consciousness, that allows us to move freely through the system, rather than being pushed into one trap or another, which up to this point, you've had infinite lives to tap into your raw consciousness and to do it right. But I feel that this particular one is the last life. And if these visions are correct, that this is the way the Yaldabaoth virus is going to be destroyed from the system to preserve the integrity of the entire system in and of itself, and, possibly all of the consciousness that's in the system too. In order to preserve that, well, then we're quarantined, and we've been quarantined. So I'm unsure if our souls exist within this time space because we're prisoners here. So if we were forcefully taken, put into pods, put into this machine in order to generate this, and we're constantly being, fed upon, or if we volunteered for some kind of community service type deal, like, hey, we'll go play this virtual reality game. At the same time, we'll generate more energy and, so on and so forth, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe this is something we do in the real world. I really don't know. I don't know. But I know that the energy harvesting is chilling me. So I personally feel that I'm here by choice. I feel that I was here to fix something. I was here to create a portal for organic consciousness to escape and into another time space, or maybe back into the real body too. I don't know. I know that going to Egypt was an ancient plan that took many lives in order to get to, and unlocking the pyramid and opening up that portal was to release the trapped souls that are here. I think that, there was a meeting at some point and said, hey, I'll go in. Don't worry about it. I'll go in with a team. We'll fix it from the inside. We'll help those that are trapped here. I don't know them. But I do know one thing for sure, that I'm apprehensive and I'm quite vexed about the symbolism of Akhenaten and the Aten. Those are the two, when I see them in Egypt, I say that's the enemy. I don't know why. I don't know too much about Egyptian history. I just know, remember when we were in Egypt, we went to the museum, I said, that's the bad guy.
Yep. Right off the bat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He overthrew the balance in Egypt, and everything went fucked up from there. So why am I seeing the symbolism of the Aten and the symbolism of Akhenaten in this, if this is benevolent or if this is anything but sinister?
Yeah, that's what I'm feeling.
Well, yeah, that's what we're here for now, is to help people get out of the wheel. And the reason for that, in my opinion, is because the Matrix is shutting down, and so the wheel is not what it used to be.
Right.
But the question is, was the wheel hijacked at some point? And instead of the wheel being a tool for growth, the wheel became a tool for trapping souls in a never-ending cycle, which they'll never ascend from. And all it does is just feed and feed and feed.
Well, and maybe the mind wipe should have never been used to get rid of all of your consciousness. Just it should have been sparing the subconscious the entire time, maybe. But the hack of it by an outside entity that's nefarious and wanting to turn this, instead of, like in The Handmaid's Tale, turning a what used to be a dorm and a university for a dorm is now turned into a prison.
I can agree with that.
I think that's what the part of it that we've been able to dismantle to a certain extent, and that's why so many third wavers are seeing great success in waking people up to this, and getting people to understand that there's a list of karmic attachments that exist that don't just have to do with you and other people. It's the whole idea that you can, and I might be a little bit, I don't want to be offensive to anybody out there, but it's always been really interesting to me how you can transfer that responsibility of what you do to others or sin or things like that, transfer that sin onto another being and then expect it to work like that.
There's a show that I have on the screen. It's called What is the Aten? The Computer Brain from Beyond the Veil. We did it 5 years ago. It feels like a lot longer than that, but 5 years ago. And I thought it was longer than an hour and a half. I don't know if we cut it down and put the rest on Patreon or what the deal was, or if we did a part 2. But that show has been coming up over and over and over again.
Yeah, it has.
And this was right after a really, really, really intense experience. And we came back with basically a map of the entire matrix, how it works. We encountered many different light beings for all intents and purposes, but I say light not in the sense that most people would think of a light being, but more of an artificial light. And the ending of it is that this is a big energy harvesting machine. But the question that we were left with afterwards is this energy harvesting a nefarious thing, or is it something that we agree to? So to kind of break it down real quick, a soul, a consciousness goes through this matrix, accumulates life energy, both positive and negative. Everything's got to have a positive and negative charge. Once it goes through the death experience, then that and life energy is taken from it. It's fed into the system. And then that consciousness is then recycled back into the machine. And there were multiple dimensions to this. This was like the second dimension. And there were more dimensions higher. And I'm not talking about dimensions as in the way science sees them. I'm talking about physical realities that exist. And one of the realities, interestingly enough, was AI, all robots. And it now, looking back at it, it has a completely different connotation to it now. But there were multiple levels of dimensions, and the highest dimension was people who were creating a matrix, putting on a certain technology, and that energy, which was passed from one dimension to the other, to the other, to the other, to the other, was ultimately being used to create these experiences and simulations and things like that. And then above that was where the energy was being harvested. So the question that I